The crowd never cheered for him. Parents in the bleachers shouted the quarterback's name, replayed the receiver's highlight grabs, and patted the running back on the helmet after long touchdowns. But when the kid in the backfield made a tackle that stopped a drive, silence. Maybe a whistle. Maybe nothing at all. He wasn't born into glory. He was shaped in its absence. While other children dreamed of throwing bombs or leaping into the end zone, he gravitated toward collisions. Not for violence, not for attention, simply because his instincts pulled him there. His world was not painted in cheers, but in the sharp crack of shoulder pads. Picture it, a Friday night in some small-town field. The quarterback struts, the receiver makes tic-tocs, parents beam with pride. And then there's this kid, crashing headfirst into ball carriers twice his size, unnoticed by anyone except the coaches scribbling notes. He wasn't playing for clout, he was playing for the stop. Years later, when people tried to describe what he was becoming, they stumbled. Too stubborn for cornerback, too light for linebacker. What was he? The answer was simple, though rarely spoken aloud. He was a football player in the purest sense. One who didn't choose the spotlight, but the responsibility hiding just outside it. And yet, here's the twist. Before he ever knew what a safety even was, the position had already chosen him. Under the Friday night lights, parents could tell you the job of every player on defense, except the one standing deepest. Corners locked down receivers, linebackers smashed into running backs, edge rushers chased quarterbacks. But the safety? To most of the crowd, he was just the guy in the back. From a coach's clipboard, though, the picture was far different. In cover one, that guy in the back became the single guardian of the sky, one mistake away from disaster. In cover two, safeties split the heavens in half, each responsible for an ocean of space. Cover three demanded even more, sprinting sideline to sideline, always a step ahead of quarterbacks scheming to burn them. And in quarters, the safety had to be a chess master, reading the concept before the snap, trailing slot receivers, and still ready to punish a run. Even within the position, the roles fractured. The free safety was the surveillance camera, reading eyes and routes like a script. Think of Ed Reed, who seemed to know the ending before the play began. The strong safety was the enforcer in disguise, living in the box like an undercover linebacker. Troy Polamalu leaping over the line, detonating a run before it even formed. To the outsider, safeties looked like hybrids, misplaced pieces that didn't fully belong to any room. Too light for linebackers, too slow for corners, too strange to celebrate. But inside the game, they were the glue. And here's the irony. The more perfectly a safety did his job, the less anyone noticed he was there at all. Film rooms don't cheer, they accuse. A single red circle on the screen, a coach's laser pointer hovering over the safety's helmet, mental error. To the crowd on Friday nights, a busted play is forgotten by the next touchdown. In the meeting room, it becomes a scar that never heals. Long before sunrise, the safety is there, hunched over film like a graduate student before finals. Hours bleed together, 5, sometimes 6. Paused frames, endless route trees, scribbles in a notebook. Number 11 favors the out on third down. QB looks left before hitting seam right. The work isn't glamorous, it's obsessive, and yet obsession is survival. Linebackers can play with aggression. Corners can gamble for style points. Safeties? They must be perfect in silence. One hesitation and 6 points are on the board. One wrong angle and the replay loops forever. The fear isn't of contact, it's of being branded the mistake. The irony is that the greatest safeties were rarely the fastest. Malcolm Jenkins read plays like sheet music. Rodney Harrison diagnosed concepts before quarterbacks even released the ball. They proved that intelligence, not speed, was the sharpest weapon in the secondary. But here's the cruel paradox. The smarter you became, the lonelier the job felt. Because when you guessed right, no one noticed. And when you guessed wrong, everyone did. Recruiters didn't come to watch the safety. They came for the quarterbacks launching bombs and the receivers making circus catches. On film, touchdowns glowed like neon lights. Tackles in space vanished into the background. A safety could save 10 points with a perfect angle, and the camera would already be panning away. The irony? Coaches noticed. They knew which kid was shouting coverages, fixing alignments, and dragging the defense into order before the snap. In the locker room, the safety was often the captain, the voice everyone listened to when chaos loomed. But outside those walls, fans only remembered the jerseys that scored. At Friday night games, parents whispered about scholarships for the star running back, not the kid who just shut down 3 drives in a row. Highlight reels rewarded flash, safeties specialized in prevention, and prevention never trended. By the time he reached college, the divide was sharper. Wideouts still danced for cameras, quarterbacks still signed posters, and the safety still walked back to his dorm with a notebook full of tendencies and no one asking for his autograph. Teammates called him coach on the field. Fans just called him number 27. And here's the cruel trick. Leadership didn't make him visible. It made him invisible faster. Because when a safety did his job, the world barely noticed he existed. Training camp isn't a dream. It's a firing squad with whistles. Every morning, names vanish from the roster, lockers get cleaned out, and the silence in the room grows heavier. First-round quarterbacks stroll in with guaranteed millions. The undrafted safety lines up for kick coverage, praying the next collision buys him one more day. He isn't there to shine. He's there to survive. Special teams become his battleground. Scout team his disguise. One snap, he's pretending to be a wide receiver. The next, he's mimicking a tight end, just so the starters have someone to sharpen their blades against. It isn't glamorous. It's invisible labor. Even if he makes the cut, the math never changes. The QB on Billboard signs a $30 million deal. The safety at the end of the depth chart scrapes by on league minimum. Rent, family bills, agents' fees, the paycheck is already spoken for before it clears. Behind every tackle is the quiet panic of knowing that one missed assignment could cost more than a game. It could cost a career. And when his number is finally called on defense, it isn't for glory, it's for scraps. Nickel packages, dime looks, the crumbs left over when stars need rest. He walks onto the field like a substitute teacher with no chalk left, told to manage chaos without recognition. The cruelest irony? He does it well. He nails the assignments, absorbs the punishment, blends into the fabric of the game. And because he's flawless, he disappears. The highlight reels don't show the truth. They show the leaping interceptions, the bone-rattling hits, the one season when a safety looks unstoppable. What they don't show is the average lifespan of the position, 3 to 5 years. Shorter than almost anywhere else on the field. Shorter because the body breaks faster. From the press box, fans marvel at the collisions. Down on the grass, concussions stack like unpaid bills. Shoulders grind, knees buckle, necks stiffen. Wide receivers have the sideline to escape, corners can play off coverage, but safeties, they have no exit door. Their job is to sprint into the furnace, play after play, with no option but impact. Consider Bob Sanders, once Defensive Player of the Year, a human missile disguised as a safety. For a moment, he looked immortal. And then the injuries came. Shoulder tears, knee surgeries, back pain that never left. One of the brightest stars of his generation turned into a cautionary tale, proof that the position doesn't forgive its heroes. The cruelest part is that the peak always feels like the beginning of the end. The louder the applause, the more fragile the body becomes. Every tackle is a hairline crack, invisible until the day it suddenly splinters. And maybe that's why no safety truly gets to arrive. Because the moment he does, the countdown has already started. The headlines never say, linebacker missed his gap, or cornerback bit on a fake. They just say the safety blew it. On message boards and social media, one mistimed step becomes a meme, a thread, a week-long trial where the verdict is already guilty. Inside the facility, the judgment is colder. Snap counts shrink without ceremony. The depth chart shuffles, and the younger, faster recruit is handed opportunities you once fought for. Coaches call it rotation. You know it's replacement. Teammates still dap you up, still call you OG, but their eyes drift toward the kid wearing your number in practice reps. And the cruelest scene plays out in silence, the veteran teaching the rookie how to take his place. You walk him through disguises, explain how to read a quarterback's shoulders, remind him to shout the coverage before the snap. Not because you want to disappear, but because that's the curse of the safety. Protect the defense, even if it means erasing yourself. To the outside world, decline looks sudden. To the safety, it feels like erosion. Each week, a little less spotlight. Each film session, a little more blame. No farewell tour, no ovation, just the quiet sound of footsteps behind you. Until one day, they're no longer behind, they're ahead. And that's when you realize, the game doesn't cut you in one blow, it replaces you in whispers. The end doesn't arrive with applause, it arrives with silence. Contracts expire, the phone stays quiet, and a veteran's safety waits for a call that never comes. Quarterbacks retire with press conferences. Wide receivers post farewell videos with highlight reels. A safety disappears with a one-line transaction. Team X has released player Y. From the outside, it looks like age. From the inside, it feels like erosion. Each morning, his knees ache before his feet touch the floor. His back locks up on the way to the kitchen. Yet when his mother calls, he tells her he's good, because that's easier than explaining that every day feels like the aftermath of a car crash. In the locker room, there's no ceremony, no send-off, just a younger man taping up the same number on his jersey. The veteran still teaches him how to disguise coverage, how to time a blitz, as if passing down secrets will somehow preserve his own fading relevance. It doesn't. And when the lights go dark, the real pain begins. Not just the bruises or the concussions, but the hollow space left behind. Depression creeps in where adrenaline used to live. For years, he was the last line of defense, the protector no one noticed until he failed. Now, stripped of the jersey, he isn't sure who he is at all. The cruel twist? The world doesn't mourn the vanishing of a safety. It barely notices. Legends live forever. Quarterbacks become statues outside stadiums. Wide receivers get highlight reels that play on loop every Sunday broadcast. Safeties? Unless they were extraordinary, an Ed Reed reading offenses like a psychic, a Troy Polamalu flying over the line of scrimmage with hair flowing like a comic book hero. They fade into the background, solid, reliable, forgotten. The truth surfaces only after the game is gone. Doctors show scans that look more like demolition sites than skeletons. CTE, chronic pain, joints that grind like rusted hinges. The same players who once saved touchdowns now struggle to remember appointments. Re-entry into ordinary life is harder than any playoff game. There are no crowds, no huddles, no purpose wrapped in shoulder pads. But reflection has its own strange clarity. The safety doesn't recall endorsements or ovations, because they rarely existed. What he remembers are the invisible victories, the tipped pass in the red zone that stole 6 points from the scoreboard, the open field stop that nobody cheered but kept the season alive, the coverage call that saved a teammate's career tape. So when you peel away the silence, the injuries, the anonymity, a different legacy appears. Glory was never the point. Responsibility was. To be the conscience of a defense, the last voice before disaster, the player who lived in shadows so others could stand in light. That was the true meaning. And maybe that's why the game forgets safeties so quickly. Because while fans chase stars, safeties were never chasing glory at all. They were chasing responsibility and catching it every time.